Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today to my widow community and all of my widow family. I'm so grateful that you're here, and I'm so grateful that you found us on Hope Hub. I built Hope Hub to create a community for widows where we can be open and honest and ask questions that you can't ask of any of your other friends and family and people who get it. Like I just wanted to create a community of people who really got it, and you'll start to see more coming soon, in addition to the online platform, a lot of more in-person connection opportunities. But for today, I'm super excited. Alyssa and I met like a year ago, I think. At this
Yeah.
point, we were connected, and it's been like this, trying to make things happen. And so I'm really excited to have this conversation with Alyssa, who's going to give us a little insight into her personal story and also what she does to help others. I'll just leave it at that. We'll make it literally, mysterious.
All right, we'll be a little mysterious.
So Alyssa, why don't you just give us, the quick overview of who you are? And again, I told her before we get on, I don't do intros because I always think it's really weird when someone introduces me. It seems awkward to me. So tell us who you are.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me. I am so honored to be here. My name is Alyssa Zonghetti, and I am actually a certified clinical hypnotherapist. And I specialize in working with women to help them overcome fears, regain their confidence, through hypnotherapy and mindset coaching. But the big part of my story is that I am a widow as well. And I know that's initially how we first connected because everyone kept saying, oh, you two need to know each
Yeah.
other. And I'm so glad that they did connect us because I do think what you're doing is absolutely wonderful. Just was sharing with you that when I lost my husband, finding a widows group was my lifeline. And it was something I really fought being a part of initially.
Oh yeah, totally.
My therapist encouraged me, and I was like, yeah, that's not happening. Like, group, no. And we made a deal. She goes, go one time, and then if you hate it, you never have to go back. And this was a very long time ago, so it was before Zoom days and things, so I had to go in person. Um, but it was the best thing that I ever did, and was just so thankful that I was open to it and open to the process. Because I really do feel that that helped. That time, as tragic as it was, really started me on my personal development journey, which led me to my career now as a hypnotherapist.
Yeah. Do you mind sharing your story a little bit? Just,
Yeah,
about your loss and how you kind of navigated that and got to where you are today?
yeah. So, like I said, it's been a while. It's been over 15 years now since I lost my husband. He did die by suicide. And it was not a healthy relationship. It was a narcissistic relationship. There was a lot of struggles there. Um, and I didn't really learn about any of that until after he passed. He's still someone that I loved, was a huge part of my life. We knew each other from our teenage years, so he was a big part of my life. Like I said, healthy or not, he was a big part of it and a big part of my history. So when he passed away, um, it was it rocked my world for multiple reasons. And when your whole world changes, your everyday life changes, the thought of your future changes. I didn't know what to do. I was 31 years old. I was very young at the time. Just had gotten married, was talking about starting a family, and was just in this season of life where I thought, like, thinking of my future, and it very abruptly was taken away and just really sent me on a different trajectory. So through that, just did a lot of therapy, started going to widows groups, and really just learning about myself, um, the dynamics of our relationship, and really understanding grief. I really, even though I had like lost family members, lost grandparents, right? It was still a very different
Different.
loss.
It's different.
And yeah, and I mean, nobody I knew in my 30s had lost a
Right.
spouse. I mean, frankly, people in my 50s and 60s that I knew hadn't lost a spouse, right? Like, it was something that nobody around me had experienced. So I felt very lost, very alone, because we were living apart at the time when he passed away. So I also struggled a lot with the title of widow and these labels we put on ourselves. And am I a widow? Am I not? Right? Like, all these things I just beat myself up over. And I said, bottom line, it was somebody that I cared about. that I spent my life with, started building a life with, and no matter what the title is, whether you're married or not or whatever, like
Yeah, no, it's something that I've been really deliberate about as I've grown. It's Lifey. In fact, I did an in-person coffee meetup over the weekend, and there was a young woman who I should connect you to, who also is in her early 30s and was living apart from her partner. They weren't even married, and it doesn't matter. Like when you lose somebody that you are connected to in a way that seems like, whether it is a marriage or a partnership or, it doesn't, you're right, the labels and all of that stuff, like it doesn't matter. You're still in this place where you've lost a future. Like that's kind of how I look at it a lot is like everything that you thought life would be has been taken away.
right.
And so, I really appreciate you kind of talking openly about the relationship not being healthy. Because I think that's another kind of, I don't want to call it a stigma, but it's another thing that people don't, you think of like these grand 30-year happy marriages that are fun. And trust me, like there are so many people that have that, but my story was not like that either. I mean, I was married to the love of my life and all of the things, but we had a lot of problems too.
Yeah. And that's, I think, the
And
reality of it, right?
that's
Most
the
people do.
reality of it. And people don't talk about that though. And
Right.
it's, I don't know. Again, I'm an open book, so I'll tell you everything you need to know.
Me too. Yeah.
But I think
Yeah.
people just need to hear it so that they think like, oh my God, I'm not alone. Like I was also separated, or we were on the verge of getting divorced, or it was a narcissistic relationship, or my husband was an alcoholic, or, all of these things that are like fairly normal. So yeah, so I appreciate your honesty and I hope other people, feel that they can, have those feelings too.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. That's why I became so passionate about sharing my story because, I came from a very old school Italian family. It's like, don't talk about your problems, don't talk about your life,
mhm.
put the brave face on, don't, right? Like, that was how I grew up. So at the time, I really, like, retreated in because I was like, okay, I'm not going to tell anybody. I'm going to just tell everybody I'm great, I'm fine, I've got this. And all the while, like, it was like crumbling inside. And then because that's what made everybody else feel comfortable.
Right. Yeah.
And again, ended up with a narcissist because I was a people pleaser, and that's what I was trying to do, is trying to worry about everybody else, but was not worrying about myself. But in 2020, at the start of the pandemic, I started hosting virtual events for women who were quarantined and were single, and navigating being quarantined alone. And through that time, I started sharing my story even more. I shared it on a Facebook page. I got very real on a Facebook page. Don't know why or what, but like shared very openly all the details of what happened within minutes. Someone responded back and she said, "Oh my God, we have almost the exact same stories. Like, let's connect." 3 hours later, like we were on a Zoom for three
Yeah.
hours. She's now one of my closest friends.
Yeah, that's
We had started a podcast together to share our stories because we had both been in these toxic relationships, and we started to realize the more we shared about it, others would be like, "Oh my gosh, yes,
me
I
too.
understand." Like they just want we're all suffering in silence, and so it was more about creating safe spaces for women to open up.
And so how did that lead to what is the
Yep.
timeline between when you lost your husband and got to what you're doing today?
Yeah, so like I said, at that time I started hosting these events, much like what you're doing.
Mhm.
It just kind of snowballed. Like I just intended to have like this one virtual event, and then I could see that there was a need. People were craving community at that time, and we were all connecting virtually. So I created a whole online community geared towards single women or those, in a more independent place in their life. And so I was running that. Then it was great, but then we tried to transition to in-person events, which was fun for a short time, but because we had built online, it was a very global, literally a global community. We had people
Mhm.
in foreign
Yeah.
countries. So when we tried to transition to in-person, it didn't quite work. But through that time, I started doing some mindset coaching with women. It wasn't something I was formally trained in or anything to that, but women just kept reaching out and said, Can you help me along? Can you share with me what you've done? Can you just share some of your experiences? So I started doing that in a very informal way and then started to build a business around that. And then as I continued to do all of my work and my growth and my training, I became very familiar with all these different mindset techniques out there and decided to get certified in hypnotherapy because I saw the power behind it and what it could do for people in a very short amount of time. I was somebody, I'm a big proponent of talk therapy. I think it's important and has its place. But my therapist would always, joke with me when I go in. I would always be like, right, what's my homework? What can I do? Because I want to create change. I don't want to just
Yeah.
come in here and talk to you for an hour.
Yeah.
Like, how can I change something? And that's exactly what hypnotherapy does. It helps create change. And that's why I wanted to get certified and be able to bring that to people to help them through all kinds of things in life.
I'm sure you could go on about, the science behind it and the way it works, but if you could give us just a little snapshot for people who have no idea what hypnotherapy even is,
Yes.
and why it gives you those results in the short amount of time.
Yes. So people hear hypnotherapy or hear hypnosis, they automatically have the Hollywood perception. They think I'm going to make you bark like a dog or quack like a duck and going to make you do weird things and I'm going to take control of your mind. And it is none of that. That is Hollywood. That is, there is such a thing as stage hypnosis. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about reaching the deep subconscious levels of the mind. Different things that have been ingrained in our minds that we have learned probably at a young age. A lot of it usually goes back to our childhood or some of these first instances of exposure to certain situations, and then how our subconscious mind holds on to it. So, with hypnosis, it's essentially guided meditation. Again, it's nothing weird. I don't take control of your mind. You remain in complete control. But through conversation and different techniques, and such as meditation, we help tap into that deeper subconscious level to reprogram your mindset around things.
Hmm.
Um, so something, very simplistic in terms of food. If you see a commercial, right? Like marketers use hypnosis all the time, essentially, and suggestion all the time, right? You see an ad, you see a slice of pizza on a commercial, and immediately you're like, "Ooh, that pizza looks good. Look at that cheese," right? Like you can taste it. You might start thinking about your favorite pizza place. That is the power of suggestion. And that's essentially what a hypnotherapist is doing. They are giving power of suggestion to your mind to help reprogram your mindset, whether it's overcoming fears, creating new habit changes. It can be used for all different things.
Yeah. I mean, I'm so fascinated by it. And, I was sharing with you a lot of kind of mind, body, soul work myself. I've always been in therapy my whole life, I think. I do, I suffer from depression and anxiety. I'm actually doing a mental health program right now. It's pretty intensive, but supplementing it with some of this, kind of newer mind, body, soul that I'm really starting to learn about. And what you're saying is so, it's resonating me that we have these learned behaviors that we don't even know exist, and they control our lives and they control how we handle every situation, including loss, which, like how I handled my husband's death compared to how somebody else does is oftentimes based on how, they were raised and the values. And like I mean, you pointed out a perfect example. You were raised in an Italian family where you just didn't talk about your feelings.
Hmm.
And so people, you think that's what you're supposed to do. And so I think it's really incredible that you can kind of go back into the subconscious and you to reprogram it. So,
Yeah, the mind's a really powerful thing, and that's what I love about this work because it's possible. If you were open to the process and you were
right.
open to like amazing things can happen in such a short amount of time. I will say people always ask me all the time when it comes to grief, like they want me to take their grief away. And it's like, unfortunately, I can't do that, right? Like that's not what we're trying to strive here for. But there's different parts of the grief. Like you said, what are you grieving about the loss? Is there something maybe in your everyday, creating a new habit, creating a new routine to help overcome the loss of something you were maybe used to in the past with your spouse
Mhm.
and creating new habits or creating new routines and that instead of feeling sadness, we can reprogram the mind to associate joy to that new change.
Yeah.
So
And
that's
I
like some of
think
the
that's
ways.
one of the questions that I get, or, in any group, one of the things that someone always says is, what do I do now?
Yeah.
And it's redefining your identity.
Yeah.
Who am I now outside of this marriage that either I've been in a long time or a short time that was maybe toxic, or it was like the most amazing, romantic, beautiful, regardless of the situation, we are all in this like creating our new identities. And so, kind of recreating those, those pathways and those new thought processes. And in fact, I was just having a conversation with somebody and they were saying, does anybody feel like people think it's weird when you're happy?
Oh my gosh, yes. I mean,
And
take the shame
yeah, of
around
course, they're
that.
like, why aren't you in bed crying?
Right.
And you
Right.
know
Oh
what?
my
Listen,
gosh.
I welcome everyone's journey is different, and there are a lot of
Absolutely.
people who cannot get out of bed and who are in the depths of, intense trauma and grief. And you know, I commend you for going to the bathroom. I really do mean
Absolutely.
that. It sounds like trite, but I really,
No,
really do
it's
mean
not.
that. But, they're like to your point, like if you can start to, if you're open to retraining your mindset to maybe someday I'll be happy again. It doesn't have to be tomorrow, but
Right.
maybe someday I can feel joy, or maybe someday I can start, go back to work or, go out with my friends or whatever it is. Like, it's that
Right.
path forward.
And I do feel a lot of fears develop too
Hmm.
as you're going through this grief and this depression, and you maybe do retreat in and you're not socializing, or there's so many different facets and layers to it. But I think sometimes it can also become fears for people that it's like, okay, well, now I haven't gone out. Now this is weird, or I don't have to go out without my partner or spouse. And I know we talked before too, right? Like dating, right? That always comes up too. It's like, when is, the right time, which FYI, there is no right or
There
wrong
is
time
no
for
right
any of
time.
this. But sometimes you need encouragement to get back out there to date. And again, retrain your mind around that it's okay to want to date. It's okay to want to be in the company of somebody else and to allow yourself that. So that's some of those things when I'm talking with people about grief. It's like I can't take your grief away, but it's like how do we support you to move through your grief and allow you to give yourself some grace and to just welcome in this new future.
As I'm sitting here listening to you, I think a word that comes to mind, and I swear I'm not just saying this because it's my website, but is hope.
Yeah,
Like you're not allowed to you can't take away the grief, but you can give somebody hope.
right.
And that is amazing to me and so beautiful. And I'm so glad that you do what you do to give people hope. So
Oh, thank
tell
you.
us, so you do hypnotherapy. What else do you got going on now? And how
Yeah.
do you do it? It's all one-on-one, or is it in group work, or
Yep.
you mentioned your podcast. Like what else? What
Yes.
else is going on in Alyssa's
So
world?
there's some things cooking in the background that I'll be really excited to share, but I've been all about um, helping women to gain their empowerment back. That's always what it's been about this, right? Like for me, again, on my journey, it was reclaiming my power back um, in terms, like I said, the unhealthy relationship, but also in the grief that I wasn't just his wife or his partner, that I was my own identity and I was my own person as well. Reclaiming back my power and my voice. I had a very low level of self confidence and self worth. Um, so it's been really important to me in my journey to reclaim those things back. And that's really what I want to help women do. So right now I am working primarily with people one on one. I do have, some free hypnosis sessions out there if people want to check out my website. And you want to experience a hypnosis session for yourself in the privacy of your own home or office, definitely check it out. But yeah, I have some other things cooking in the background. But I'm just all about helping women, whether it's, as I said, after loss. I mean, even divorce, right? It's not the same thing, but it's still a loss. It's still a grief process. Your future is changing. Um, I've just even seen women who there's sadly been a lot, I think, in the economy, a lot of layoffs and people losing
Mhm.
jobs. And so it's reclaiming back that power after loss, no matter what the loss is.
And exactly, and when you lose, this was kind of my recent breakdown of sorts, was that I realized that not only had I lost Jack, but I lost, you know, and some of these losses were choices. I, um, his family, like, yes, I spent Easter with them and it was really wonderful and I love them all, but like we used to see each other all the time. And so there was like a loss there. Like he had a really amazing group of friends. Like once in a while we text each other, but like that, like they were all like I left my job. That was a choice, but I still lost a job that I really loved for a while and I just couldn't go back to because it was my life was just so different. And so it is, I think, pretty common for, when you have that life-altering event for other losses to come. And you're right to be able to find your power and your voice to like, I say this phrase all the time, but it's not moving on, it's moving forward.
Oh my
Um,
gosh, yes. I really
yeah.
dislike moving on because
Oh,
that's
I
not what
hate
it is.
it. I hate
Um,
it, especially when it's like,
oh,
why aren't you moving on? And you're like,
right.
oh my God, do you even know?
No, they don't. They don't. And that's why I love everyone's like, oh, it's been a year. I'm like, is this some
Right.
magic switch,
Yeah,
flips after
exactly.
a year that you poof, your grief is
Your
gone?
grief is gone. Right, exactly. Yes, no, healing happens throughout, your whole life.
I've always loved the quote that came from the facilitator. I mean, I know it wasn't her quote, but she used to say it all the time in my widows group. And it's like, grief is not a linear process.
Yeah.
And it's not. It's forwards, it's backwards, it's up, it's down.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
definitely, definitely. So for anybody who's watching this that likes what they hear, including me, I'm about to sign up for some one-on-one sessions. I'm so serious.
we'll make it
Because
happen.
that, really wants to figure out a way forward, and I think again, I hear that so like, what do I do now? And so I think the work that you do with people can help maybe clear away some of the cobwebs and some of the old habits and the ways that, our parents raised us that, wasn't a bad thing. It was just the culture that we grew up in and start to figure out our new identities and what is that path forward in a healthy way, and in a
Absolutely. And that
positive
is a
way.
lot of the work that I do with clients. Not only are we creating the change, but a big part of the process is understanding the change that you want. Again, a lot of times people do come to me and they're like, well, I know I want this to happen or I want that to happen, but I don't know the path. I don't truly know what I want the outcome to be. And that's a big part of what we do. Like I worked with a client today and she's like, I don't know, I just feel blah. I don't feel right. Like something's off. I'm not sleeping well. I don't feel comfortable in my body. Like something was off. But once we started to tap in a little bit more and do the work, we started to really understand what was going on for her. So that's a lot of what the process is too, is if you're unsure, it can really help you to uncover, what may be plaguing you that you're not quite sure of.
My gosh, I love that so much. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me. I appreciate it. I hope this helps, women to understand the options. That's, a lot of what I've, been trying to do through this business is to understand that there are more options than talk therapy, than group therapy. That's not, again, I do it all too.
Yeah.
But that
And
there
try them
are
all,
other,
right?
and I think, there are other options to help to reclaim your identity and your power, as you said. I think that was beautifully said. Where can people find you? What's your website?
Yes, so you can go. My website is a2zhypnosis.com. So A-T-O-Z, a little play on my initials.
Yeah, I
A
like
to Z
that.
Hypnotherapy is the name of my business. And you can also connect with me. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, all the
Awesome.
places. Reach out to me. I'm just always happy to connect with other people. If you just have questions about hypnosis or about my journey, like I said, I'm an open book. I will share anything. So I just love connecting with other women. So please feel free to reach out.
Me too. This was so fun. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
I will hopefully see everybody that is watching soon, and highly encourage you to reach out to Alyssa and to engage with Hope Hub. And we'll be announcing some new in-person widow gatherings. We're recording this at 7:36 p.m., so please forgive me.
Yes.
And so, please come join. It's the club that nobody ever wants to join, but at least if we're in it together, we can make each other, smile and be in it together. So thank you so much.